Now, the number of shoppers visiting our high streets has fallen at a record-breaking rate, according to new figures published today. Footfalls dramatically declined by more than 80% in April, with all but essential shops closed. It comes as experts are predicting the UK is set for the deepest downturn in living memory. Well, to talk more about this, I'm joined by Kent's high street expert, Martin Newman. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. I suppose it's not much surprise that footfall has declined, but I suppose it's the scale of the downturn that's worrying.
No, I don't think it's any surprise at all, and the scale is horrendous. But at the end of the day, let's be honest, the majority of us have been cooped up in our households for the past couple of months, so I think it's only to be expected. We saw a decrease in footfall prior to that for over the last couple of years, as consumers have also been migrating online. What will be interesting to see is once the dust settles and we're over this crisis, how quickly or how long it takes consumers to actually get back into the high street and get back to visiting our stores. Hopefully not too long.
We've heard from the government about a phased opening up of retail and restaurants potentially at the start of July. Do you think this is possible?
I think retail we're looking at hopefully the beginning of June, and restaurants and hospitality was muted as being the early part of July. I think it is. I think what would be helpful is maybe a little bit more clarity around the cadence in terms of which retail sectors are going to open first. That would really help the retail businesses to get prepared for that, because they're going to have to think very hard about how do they create safe environments for their staff and also for customers, and give consumers the confidence that the environments are safe to go into. So I think that would be really helpful if that could be another piece of communication that came from the government. But as long as the R rate is below 1 and reasonably well below 1, then I think that timeline looks achievable.
And how much time do businesses need to adapt to these new, say, social distancing rules?
Well, it's going to take a few weeks. You've got to plan for. Obviously, there's a lesson learned there, because we've seen the grocers who've been operating now for the past couple of months, and they've put up perspex screens around their till points to protect their staff and customers. They've obviously been socially distancing in terms of only allowing a certain number of consumers into the store at one time. I think it's harder to control when consumers are in those larger retail formats. I think it will be easier to control in smaller retailers like electrical retailers and fashion retailers. But they've got to be thinking about how many staff do they need in the store at one time, or can they have in the store? How do they stagger staff lunch breaks? How do they manage the back office within the store environment, to make sure that that's safe and secure for all of their colleagues? And obviously, how do they make sure they create an environment that consumers feel, completely safe in? So it's going to take them a few weeks, and obviously the more notice they have, the better.
Well, as always, it's great to get your insight on that, Martin Newman. Thank you very much for joining us.
My pleasure.